Settle in and let me tell you a story. It's a story about a man who listened very, very closely to the universe and about the magic that happens when we look up at the night sky.
Our story begins long, long ago, in a time of flickering candlelight and streets paved with smooth, gray cobblestones. In that faraway time, in the year 1564, something wonderful was about to happen, though nobody knew it just yet.
In a little city in Italy called Pisa, a baby boy was born, and they named him Galileo Galilei.
Now, Galileo's father loved music, but he also loved asking questions, and he taught his son the most important thing of all, which is how Galileo became known as the boy who always asked why.
His father would tell him, never believe something just because everyone else does. You have to ask why. And Galileo took that to heart. He loved asking why. He'd gaze up at the big, dark sky with his wide, curious eyes, and he'd wonder, why does the moon sometimes look like a smile? And why do the stars twinkle like that? And why, when you drop something, does it always fall down and not up?
His teachers told him all the answers were in big, old books. But for Galileo, that just wasn't enough. He didn't just want words on a page. He wanted to see the proof with his very own eyes. And that made all the difference.
One day, sitting in a big, quiet church, Galileo wasn't reading a book. Nope, he was looking up. And that's when he noticed a secret the universe was telling him in a swinging lamp.
He watched a heavy lamp as it swung from the ceiling. Back and forth, back and forth. The swings started out big and wide, and then they got smaller and smaller.
And that's when he saw it. No matter if the swing was big or tiny, it always took the exact same amount of time. It was like a steady, gentle heartbeat. That one little observation, just from looking up, would one day help us create the clocks that tick on our walls.
Galileo's curious mind didn't stop there. Soon, he wanted to test a very old idea that everyone believed to be true, and it was going to take a very courageous climb.
You see, back then, everybody thought that heavier things fall faster than lighter things. It just seemed to make sense. But Galileo wondered, is that really true? So, he climbed all the way to the top of the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa. He held two balls, one much heavier than the other. A crowd gathered way down below. He took a deep breath, and he let them go. And they landed at the exact same moment. Nature had answered. Gravity pulls on everything the same.
People in the crowd gasped, but some of them, they were a little upset. They didn't like their old ideas being proven wrong. And Galileo learned that day that sometimes being right takes a lot of courage.
And then, Galileo built something truly magical. A special looking glass, a telescope that was more powerful than any other in the world. And one quiet night, he pointed it up at the sky. It was as if the stars were finally ready to whisper their secrets. First, he aimed his telescope right at the moon. He expected to see what all the books described, a perfect, smooth, glowing ball of light. But what do you think he really saw? What secrets had the moon been hiding from us all this time?
He didn't see a smooth ball at all. He saw giant mountains casting long, dark shadows. He saw deep cracks and bumpy craters. It wasn't perfect. It was a real place. It was another world.
Next, he pointed his telescope toward the bright planet Jupiter, and he saw something that changed everything. 4 tiny little lights, like little fireflies, dancing around the planet. They were moons, and they were orbiting Jupiter, not the Earth. This meant that our world wasn't the center of everything. The universe was so much bigger and more wonderful than anyone had ever dreamed.
Galileo was so thrilled, he wrote a book to share what he'd seen, that the Earth actually moves around the sun. But some very powerful people were not happy about this. They wanted the Earth to be the center of everything, and they put Galileo and his truth on trial.
By now, he was an old man. They told him he had to say he was wrong. With a heavy heart, he agreed. But as he turned to leave, he whispered very, very softly, so no one else could hear. And yet, it moves. Because he knew, deep in his heart, that no matter what anyone said, the Earth was still spinning through space.
Galileo had to spend the rest of his days in his home. And eventually, the man who showed the world the stars, his own eyes grew tired, and he could no longer see them.
But even in the dark, his ideas shone like the brightest star in the sky.
Long after he was gone, other smart and curious people proved that he had been right all along. From that first glimpse of Jupiter's moons, a new story began. Scientists like Isaac Newton used his ideas to understand even more. And eventually, we built rockets and flew to that same bumpy, cratered moon he first saw. Every spaceship we send out today is following a path that Galileo dreamed of.
Galileo never stopped being curious, and he never stopped believing in the truth. He didn't create the stars, of course. He simply helped the world open its eyes and see them for what they truly were. So tonight, when you look up at the moon and the sparkling stars, think of the boy who always asked why. And then ask yourself, what will you discover? Because maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit of Galileo inside of you too. Sweet dreams.